The mining station Kepler 442b had seen better days. Marcus Chen wiped the grease from his hands as he surveyed the malfunctioning atmospheric processor, its rhythmic wheezing echoing through the cramped maintenance bay. 3 years of asteroid mining had taught him that in space, everything eventually broke down, and it was usually his job to fix it. The emergency klaxon shattered the relative quiet, its piercing wail bouncing off the metal walls. Marcus dropped his tools and rushed to the observation deck where the rest of the skeleton crew had already gathered. Through the reinforced viewport, he could see something that made his blood run cold. A massive ship hung in the void, its hull a deep crimson that seemed to absorb the distant starlight. Even damaged and listing to one side, it dwarfed their mining station like a cathedral next to a shed. Scorch marks and hull breaches told the story of a fierce battle, but what made Marcus's hands shake wasn't the ship's size or obvious military design. It was the symbol burned into its hull, the three-headed dragon of the Kirathi Dominion. "Sweet Mother of Earth," whispered Captain Rodriguez, her weathered face pale. "That's a Kirathi dreadnought." The Kirathi were legend among the outer colonies. Dragons, the Spacers called them, though they bore little resemblance to the mythical creatures of Earth. 3 meters tall, covered in scales harder than titanium, with 4 arms ending in claws that could tear through steel plating. They had conquered 17 star systems in the past decade, their technology centuries ahead of humanity's. Entire fleets had been reduced to scrap metal by single Kirathi vessels. "It's not responding to hails," reported Communications Officer Webb, his voice tight with fear. "But I'm picking up a single life sign." "One survivor on a ship that size?" Rodriguez frowned. "That thing usually carries a crew of 300. Marcus stared at the drifting hulk. Something was wrong with this picture. Kirathi ships didn't just appear damaged in empty space. They won their battles, took their prizes, and moved on. This one looked like it had barely escaped with its life. "Captain," Webb's voice cracked slightly, "I'm detecting massive internal damage. Life support is failing. That survivor won't last another 6 hours." Rodriguez was silent for a long moment. The smart play was obvious: get as far away as possible and hope the Kirathi didn't send a rescue fleet. But Marcus found himself thinking about the stories his grandfather used to tell, about Earth's ancient code of the sea. You didn't leave anyone to die in the void, not even your enemies. "We could dock with their emergency airlock," Marcus said quietly. "Their outer hull is breached, but the inner sections might still be pressurized." Every eye in the room turned to him. Rodriguez looked like he'd suggested they juggle antimatter. "Marcus, those are Kirathi. They've wiped out 3 human colonies in the past year alone." "It's one survivor, Captain, probably dying." "One Kirathi could kill all 12 of us without breaking a sweat." Marcus nodded grimly. He'd heard the stories. A single Kirathi warrior had held off an entire human marine battalion on Proxima Station. Their combat prowess was legendary, their technology incomprehensible, their mercy non-existent. But looking at that broken ship, he couldn't shake the feeling that this was different. "I volunteer to go over," he said. "If it's hostile, I'll buy you time to get away." Rodriguez studied his face. "Why, Marcus? Why risk it?" He thought about his answer. "Because maybe being better than them starts with not leaving them to die." 2 hours later, Marcus floated through the umbilical tunnel connecting their mining station to the Kirathi dreadnought. His EVA suit felt paper-thin against the vast emptiness of space, and his hands trembled as he approached the alien airlock. The metal was a strange alloy that seemed to shift colors in his helmet lights, and the control panel was covered in symbols that hurt to look at directly. Surprisingly, the airlock responded to his touch, cycling open with a pneumatic hiss that he felt rather than heard through his suit. The corridor beyond was a nightmare of twisted metal and emergency lighting. Whatever had happened here, it had been catastrophic. Blast patterns scorched the walls, and strange luminescent fluids had crystallized in the zero gravity. Following the life sign readings from his scanner, Marcus made his way deeper into the ship. The Kirathi technology was everywhere. Walls that seemed to pulse with organic life, controls that responded to thought rather than touch, weapons systems that defied human understanding. But it was all dead now. Dark and cold as the space around them. He found the survivor in what might have been a medical bay. The Kirathi lay motionless on a treatment table, connected to machines that hummed with alien purpose. Marcus's first instinct was to run. Even unconscious, the creature was terrifying. Its scales were a deep blue-black, each one the size of a human palm and edged with sharp ridges. 4 muscular arms ended in claws that could easily decapitate a man. The elongated head featured multiple eyes currently closed and a mouth full of teeth designed for tearing flesh. But as Marcus approached, he realized something was terribly wrong. One of the creature's wings, for Kirathi were indeed draconic in their ability to fly in low-gravity environments, was twisted at an unnatural angle. Bone protruded through torn membrane, and the surrounding scales were cracked and bleeding. The wing dragged uselessly, clearly causing immense pain even in unconsciousness. The alien's breathing was labored, each inhalation a struggle. Multiple wounds covered its body, some cauterized, others still seeping. This wasn't just a survivor. This was someone who had crawled here to die. Marcus checked his readings. The ship's life support was indeed failing, oxygen levels dropping steadily. In a few hours, this medical bay would be as cold and airless as the void outside. The decision should have been easy. Leave the monster to die and return to safety. Instead, Marcus found himself studying the alien medical equipment. His engineering training had taught him to understand systems, and systems were systems, whether human or alien. The machines keeping the Kirathi alive were elegant in their complexity, but their purpose was clear. With careful manipulation, he might be able to stabilize the creature long enough to transport it. "What am I doing?" he muttered to himself as he began interfacing with the alien technology. His suit's computer struggled to translate the symbolic language, but patterns emerged. This was anesthesia. That was blood circulation. Here were the neural monitors. The Kirathi stirred as Marcus worked, its eyes fluttering open. Multiple pupils focused on him with predatory intensity, and for a moment, pure terror flooded through Marcus's veins. This close, he could see the intelligence in those alien eyes, the calculation. Even wounded and dying, this creature was evaluating him as a threat. But instead of lashing out, the Kirathi simply watched. Its breathing remained labored, but its gaze followed Marcus's movements with curious attention. When Marcus accidentally triggered a pain response while adjusting the medical equipment, the alien made a sound, not quite a growl, not quite a sigh. Pain, Marcus realized. Even apex predators felt pain. "Easy," Marcus said softly, not sure if the universal translator in his suit was working. "I'm trying to help." The Kirathi's head tilted slightly, a surprisingly human gesture. One clawed hand moved toward Marcus, and he nearly bolted. But the movement was weak, unthreatening. The alien was pointing at something, a control panel Marcus hadn't noticed. Following the gesture, Marcus found what appeared to be a portable medical unit. The symbols were clearer here, and his suit's computer managed a partial translation. Emergency transport. Life support. The Kirathi had been trying to reach this device when it collapsed. Working together in a strange, wordless cooperation, Marcus helped activate the portable unit. It unfolded like a mechanical flower, creating a life support bubble around the wounded alien. Atmosphere readings stabilized, and the Kirathi's breathing eased slightly. "Can you move?" Marcus asked, gesturing toward the exit. The alien tried to rise, but its damaged wing caught on the medical table, sending spasms of pain through its body. The wing was completely useless, Marcus realized. For a species that probably relied on flight for both hunting and escape, such an injury would be devastating. Without thinking, Marcus moved to support the creature's weight. The Karathi was heavier than he'd expected. Its dense muscle and bone evolved for a higher gravity world, but with the portable life support unit and Marcus's assistance, they managed to make slow progress toward the airlock. The journey back to the mining station took over an hour. The Karathi said nothing, but Marcus could feel its attention on him, studying, analyzing. When they reached the umbilical tunnel, the alien paused, looking back at its destroyed ship. In that moment, Marcus saw something in the creature's eyes that he recognized: loss. Whatever had happened here, this Karathi had lost more than just its ship and crew. Captain Rodriguez was waiting in the docking bay, along with the entire crew and enough weapons to stop a small army. Her face was grim as Marcus emerged from the airlock, supporting the massive alien. "Marcus, what the hell are you thinking?" "It was dying, Captain. And I think it's different from what we've heard." The Karathi studied the assembled humans with what might have been curiosity rather than hostility. When Rodriguez stepped forward, weapon raised, the alien made no aggressive moves. Instead, it spoke, its voice a rumbling bass that seemed to come from somewhere deep in its chest. "I am HFY," the creature said in accented but understandable English. "I thank you for the gift of continued existence." The words hit the crew like a physical blow. Karathi didn't speak human languages. Karathi didn't thank anyone for anything. And they certainly didn't allow themselves to be rescued by the species they considered inferior prey. "You speak English," Rodriguez said, her weapon still trained on the alien. "I speak many languages," HFY replied. "Knowledge is precious, as is honor." The alien turned to Marcus. "You risked your life for one who should be your enemy. This is not wisdom by my people's measure." "Maybe that's the problem," Marcus said quietly. "Maybe measuring everything by violence is what got you into this situation." HFY's multiple eyes focused on him with renewed interest. "You believe my situation was caused by violence? Your ship is shot full of holes. Your crew is dead. Your wing is broken. Either you found something more dangerous than you are, or your own people did this to you." The silence stretched for nearly a minute. When HFY finally spoke, its voice carried a weight of exhaustion that seemed to go beyond physical wounds. "Both," the alien said, "and neither. The truth is complex." Rodriguez slowly lowered her weapon. Whatever she had expected from a Karathi prisoner, philosophical discussion wasn't it. "Our medical bay can't handle your physiology. You'll need your own equipment to survive." "The portable unit will suffice for now," HFY said, "though I suspect my survival is temporary in any case." "What happened to you?" Marcus asked. HFY looked at him for a long moment, seeming to weigh its words carefully. "I discovered that my people's greatest enemy was not the humans we hunted, but the lies we told ourselves. And when I tried to speak this truth," the alien gestured to its broken wing with obvious pain. "This was their answer." The implications hit Marcus like a cold wave. "You're a refugee. I am what you humans might call a traitor. Though I prefer to think of myself as someone who finally opened their eyes." HFY's gaze swept over the assembled humans. "And now I am dependent on the mercy of those my people would slaughter without thought. The irony is significant." Rodriguez stepped forward. "If you're telling the truth, then you're not our enemy. But how do we know you're not lying? How do we know this isn't some Karathi trick?" "You do not," HFY said simply. "You must choose whether to trust, just as I chose to trust your engineer when he entered my ship. Trust is always a risk, but it is also the only path to understanding." Marcus found himself nodding. There was something about the alien's manner, the obvious pain in its voice when it spoke of its people, that rang true. And the broken wing spoke louder than words. No one would inflict such damage on themselves for the sake of deception. "We'll give you sanctuary," Rodriguez decided. "For now. But if you try anything—" "I understand," Vexhai said. "And Captain Rodriguez, I offer you knowledge in exchange for this kindness. Knowledge that may save your species." "What kind of knowledge?" "The location of the Kirathi's next target. And perhaps more importantly, the location of something they fear so much that they would break their own greatest warrior to prevent him from reaching it." Marcus felt his heart racing. "What are they afraid of?" Vexhai looked directly at him, and in those alien eyes, Marcus saw something that might have been hope. Proof that everything they believe about your species is wrong. Proof that humans are not the weak prey they assume. And proof that their empire is built on foundations far more fragile than they know. The medical bay of the mining station had been hastily converted to accommodate their unexpected guest. Vexhai lay on a reinforced platform, the portable life support unit humming quietly beside him. Dr. Sarah Kim worked nervously around the alien, her human medical training pushed to its limits. "The wing is completely shattered," she reported to Captain Rodriguez. "Multiple fractures, severed nerve pathways, torn flight membrane. Even with our best regenerative therapy, I don't think it will ever heal properly." Marcus stood nearby, unable to shake the image of Vexhai's first attempt to stand. The proud alien warrior reduced to dragging his wing behind him like a broken banner. For a species that probably viewed flight as fundamental as breathing, such an injury would be devastating beyond measure. "Can you tell us about this knowledge you mentioned?" Rodriguez asked Vexhai directly. The alien's breathing had stabilized, but its voice still carried undertones of pain. "First, you must understand something about my people. We are not the unified empire your intelligence services believe us to be." "Explain." "The Kirathi Dominion is controlled by the hierarchs, ancient families who have ruled for millennia. They maintain power through a combination of superior technology and carefully maintained myths about our superiority. Every Kirathi is raised from birth to believe that we are the apex of evolution, destined to rule the galaxy." Marcus frowned. "But you don't believe that anymore?" "I began to doubt when I was assigned to study human military tactics after the Battle of Wolf 359. Your forces were outnumbered 50-1. Outgunned by technology centuries ahead of your own. By all rational analysis, you should have been eliminated within minutes." "We lost that battle," Rodriguez said grimly. "Lost it badly." "Yes, but you should have lost it in the first 30 seconds. Instead, you fought for 6 hours. Your ships used tactics we had never encountered. Ramming attacks, coordinated sacrifice plays, using debris as weapons. Most remarkably, your crews continued fighting even when their ships were crippled, sometimes with nothing but hand weapons and desperate courage." Vexhai paused, its multiple eyes distant with memory. "I watched recordings of human soldiers who continued fighting with severed limbs, of ship captains who rammed Kirathi dreadnoughts while screaming defiance over open channels. This was not the behavior of inferior prey. This was something else entirely." "So you started asking questions?" Marcus guessed. "I started investigating. What I found—" Vexhai's claws flexed unconsciously. "The hierarchs have been lying to us for generations. Human colonies don't fall because you are weak. They fall because we vastly outnumber you and possess technology you cannot match. But in every engagement, humans inflict casualties far beyond what should be possible. Your species fights with a ferocity and ingenuity that terrifies the hierarchs, though they would never admit it." Dr. Kim looked up from her readings. "That's why they want to eliminate us quickly?" Precisely. Every year your technology advances. Every battle teaches you more about our weaknesses. The hierarchs know that given time, humans will become a genuine threat to their dominion. So they accelerate their expansion, hoping to crush you before you reach your full potential. Rodriguez paced the small medical bay. You said they fear something specific. What? A human research facility called Project Prometheus. Your government has been developing something that could change the balance of power in this galaxy. The hierarchs learned of it through their spy networks and ordered its immediate destruction. What kind of research? Marcus asked. Consciousness transfer technology. The ability to upload and download minds, to merge biological and artificial intelligence. To the Kirathi, this represents the ultimate blasphemy, the artificial elevation of an inferior species to match our natural superiority. The implications hit Marcus like a thunderbolt. They're afraid we'll enhance ourselves. More than that. They're afraid you'll prove that consciousness, intelligence, and worth aren't tied to the biological forms we happen to be born with. If humans can enhance themselves to match Kirathi capabilities, then the entire foundation of our empire crumbles. Dr. Kim whistled softly. Where is this facility? Hidden in the Centauri neutral zone, but the hierarchs have sent their most elite strike force to destroy it. 3 dreadnoughts, 60 fighters, and 500 of our finest warriors. They will arrive in approximately 1 standard week. Rodriguez stopped pacing. How do you know all this? Because I was supposed to lead that strike force, Vexhai said quietly. I was the hierarch's chosen weapon, their perfect killer. They called me the Deadliest Dragon, and for good reason. I have never lost a battle, never failed a mission, never questioned an order. Until now, Marcus said. Until I realized that everything I had been taught was a lie designed to keep me from seeing the truth. Humans are not our inferiors. You are our equals, perhaps even our superiors in ways my people refuse to acknowledge. And destroying Prometheus would not just eliminate a threat to Kirathi dominance, it would eliminate hope for both our species. Hope? Vexhai struggled to sit up, his broken wing dragging painfully. Hope that our species might one day understand each other. Hope that this galaxy might know peace instead of endless conquest. Hope that strength and honor might be measured by something other than the ability to kill. Marcus felt something shift in his understanding. That's why they broke your wing. Not just to stop you, but to humiliate you. To prove that their way of thinking was stronger. They offered me a choice, Vexhai said, his voice heavy with memory. Lead the attack on Prometheus and prove my loyalty, or be declared a traitor to our species. When I refused, my own second-in-command challenged me to combat for leadership of the strike force. You lost? I could have won. Kreshitar was skilled, but I had trained him myself. I knew his weaknesses, his patterns, but to defeat him, I would have had to kill him, and I realized that I was tired of killing. Tired of proving my worth through violence, so I let him break my wing. The medical bay fell silent, except for the humming of the life support equipment. Dr. Kim busied herself checking readings, but Marcus could see the tears in her eyes. Rodriguez stared at the deck plating, her jaw working as she processed what she'd heard. They left you to die, Marcus said finally. They believed they had already killed me. A Kirathi without flight, without the ability to hunt and fight effectively, is already dead by our cultural standards. Casting me adrift in a crippled ship was merely making it official. But you survived. I survived because a human engineer chose to risk his life for someone he had every reason to hate. Vexahai's gaze fixed on Marcus. You gave me something I had never experienced before. What's that? Mercy. Compassion. The willingness to help someone weaker than yourself, not for gain or glory, but simply because it was the right thing to do. These concepts exist in Kirathi philosophy, but only as weaknesses to be exploited in our enemies. Marcus found himself thinking about his grandfather's stories again, about the ancient codes that governed how people treated each other in desperate situations. Maybe that's what makes us different. Maybe that's what they're really afraid of. Perhaps. But fear makes them dangerous. The strike force heading for Prometheus will show no mercy. They will eliminate every human in that facility and burn the research to prevent it from falling into anyone else's hands. Rodriguez looked up. Is there a way to stop them? Not with conventional tactics. The ships are too powerful. The warriors too skilled. But... Vex-High paused, seeming to consider something. There might be another way. A way that requires trust between our species that has never existed before. What do you mean? I still know their codes, their tactical frequencies, their operational patterns. With the right approach, it might be possible to turn their own technology against them. But it would require humans and a Kirathi working together in ways that both our species would consider impossible. Marcus felt a spark of excitement. What kind of cooperation? The kind that would require you to trust me with access to human technology and military systems. And it would require me to trust you with knowledge that could destroy what remains of the Kirathi fleet. That's asking a lot, Rodriguez said carefully. Yes. But the alternative is the destruction of Prometheus and the continuation of a war that neither of our species can truly win. Vex-High's multiple eyes fixed on each of them in turn. I am no longer the deadliest dragon. My wing is broken. My people have cast me out, and I am dependent on your mercy for my very life. But I am still a Kirathi warrior, and I still have knowledge that could make the difference between victory and defeat. What do you need from us? Marcus asked. Time to heal, access to your ship's communication systems, and most importantly, proof that humans can be trusted with the kind of power that Prometheus represents. How do we prove that? For the first time since Marcus had found him dying in the medical bay, Vex-High's expression might have been a smile. By showing me that your species' greatest strength isn't your weapons or your technology, but your ability to choose mercy over vengeance, cooperation over conquest, and hope over fear. Marcus looked around the converted medical bay, at Dr. Kim tending to an enemy who should have killed them all, at Rodriguez wrestling with the decision to trust someone who represented everything their species feared, at himself, standing beside the bedside of an alien warrior who had chosen to sacrifice everything for the chance that two species might understand each other. I think we can do that, he said quietly. Outside the station's viewports, stars wheeled in their ancient patterns, indifferent to the drama playing out in the converted medical bay. But Marcus felt something shifting in the universe. Some fundamental change in the relationship between predator and prey, enemy and ally, fear and trust. The deadliest dragon had found salvation in human hands. Now it remained to be seen whether that salvation might extend to both their species. 3 days had passed since Vex-High's arrival, and the mining station had become something entirely different. What had once been a quiet outpost for asteroid extraction was now the most unlikely Alliance headquarters in human space. Marcus found himself dividing his time between his regular engineering duties and working alongside the alien refugee, learning more about Kirathi technology than any human had ever known. Your quantum resonance chambers are primitive but surprisingly effective, Vex-High observed as Marcus showed him the station's power distribution systems. The alien's broken wing had been carefully secured in a support harness that Dr. Kim had cobbled together, allowing him to move around the station with less pain. Primitive? Marcus raised an eyebrow. This is cutting-edge human engineering. I do not mean to insult. Your approach is different from ours, less elegant perhaps, but more adaptable. Kirathi technology is designed for perfection. Human technology is designed for survival. Marcus paused in his work. Is that why you think we might actually have a chance against your people? Vex-High considered this carefully. Kirathi warriors are trained from birth to excel within known parameters. We are taught that there is one correct way to approach any situation, and that way is dictated by centuries of tradition and tactical doctrine. But humans, the alien gestured with one of his lower arms. Humans improvise. You see a problem and immediately begin devising solutions that no one has tried before. Sometimes that gets us killed. Sometimes it saves your species. At Wolf 359, our tactical computers predicted total human defeat within 12 minutes. Your forces lasted 6 hours because they did things that our computers couldn't predict. Things that no rational military doctrine would recommend. Marcus found himself grinning. Like ramming a frigate into a dreadnought's engine assembly? Like convincing 43 individual ship captains to coordinate a simultaneous ramming attack without any central communication network. The mathematical probability of such coordination emerging spontaneously from chaos should have been effectively zero. But it worked. It terrified the hierarchs, a species that can turn chaos into order, that can make impossible coordination look natural. Such a species could never be safely conquered, only eliminated. Their conversation was interrupted by Captain Rodriguez's voice over the intercom. Marcus, HFY, please report to the communications bay. We've received a message you need to see. They found Rodriguez and the rest of the crew gathered around the main display screen. The message playing was clearly of Kirathi origin. The symbols and harmonic tones were unmistakable. But Marcus didn't need a translation to understand the tone. It was a threat. What does it say? Dr. Kim asked nervously. HFY listened to the entire message before responding, his expression growing darker with each passing second. It is from Strike Force Commander Kreshatar, my former second in command. He is announcing that the traitor HFY has been found harboring with human prey, and that this station will be cleansed as an example to any other humans who might think to give aid to enemies of the Dominion. How long do we have? Rodriguez asked. The message was sent 4 hours ago from a position approximately 2 days' travel from here, but knowing Kreshatar, he will have divided his forces. Some ships are likely already en route to Prometheus, while others come here. Marcus felt his blood run cold. How many ships? Probably 2 dreadnoughts and supporting fighters, more than enough to reduce this station to its component atoms. The communications bay fell silent except for the humming of life support systems. Rodriguez stared at the tactical display, her mind clearly racing through options. We need to evacuate. Get everyone to the escape pods and hope they don't bother chasing civilian targets. They will chase them, HFY said quietly. Kreshatar will not allow any witnesses to survive. That is the Kirathi way. Then we run in the mining ships, Communications Officer Webb suggested. Scatter in all directions. Hope some of us make it. You would only delay your deaths. Kirathi ships are faster than anything in your fleet. Dr. Kim slammed her hand against a console. So we just wait here to die? There has to be something we can do. HFY was quiet for a long moment. His multiple eyes focused on something beyond the viewport. When he finally spoke, his voice carried a weight of decision that Marcus had learned to recognize. There is one possibility, but it would require you to trust me completely, and it would put everyone on this station at tremendous risk. More risk than waiting for Kirathi dreadnoughts to arrive? Rodriguez asked dryly. Yes, much more. Because what I am proposing is not just dangerous, it is unprecedented. It would require human and Kirathi technology to be integrated in ways that neither species has ever attempted. Marcus leaned forward. What kind of integration? Your mining station has something that Kirathi ships do not. Adaptive engineering systems designed to function in chaotic environments. Your power distribution network, your sensor arrays, your communication systems, they are all built to handle unexpected situations and sudden changes. So if we could interface those systems with Kirathi technology, we might be able to create something that neither species could build alone. A hybrid system that combines human adaptability with Karathi power. Dr. Kim frowned. Interface how? Our technology isn't compatible with yours. That is where trust becomes essential, HFY said. There is a way to make human and Karathi systems compatible, but it requires what my people call a consciousness bridge, a direct neural interface between human and Karathi minds. The implications hit Marcus immediately. You want to link our brains? Not permanently, and not without safeguards. But yes, a temporary neural connection that would allow human intuition and adaptability to guide Karathi technological systems. Rodriguez looked skeptical. That sounds incredibly dangerous. What happens if something goes wrong? Best case scenario, we suffer temporary neural feedback and the connection fails. Worst case scenario, HFY paused. The connecting minds could be permanently damaged or even destroyed. And you're volunteering for this? Webb asked. I am volunteering to be one half of the connection, but it must be paired with a human volunteer who understands both the risks and the potential rewards. Marcus found himself stepping forward before his conscious mind had fully processed the decision. I'll do it. Marcus, no, Dr. Kim said immediately. We have no idea what that kind of neural interface could do to a human brain. We also have no idea what Karathi dreadnoughts will do to this station if we don't try something, Marcus replied. HFY, what exactly are you proposing? The alien's expression was grave. Using the consciousness bridge, we could integrate your station's adaptive systems with portable Karathi technology from my ship. The result would be a hybrid defense network that could potentially confuse or even disable approaching Karathi vessels. Could potentially. The theoretical framework is sound, but it has never been tested. We would be attempting to merge two completely different technological philosophies in real time while under attack. Rodriguez studied both of them carefully. Even if this works, it only delays the inevitable. We might survive one attack, but they'll send more ships. Not if we can prove to the hierarchs that humans and Karathi can work together successfully, HFY said. Such proof would challenge their fundamental beliefs about species superiority. It might even convince some Karathi that their current path is wrong. That's a lot of maybes, Webb observed. Yes, but the alternative is certain death for everyone on this station and the eventual destruction of Prometheus. At least this way, we have a chance. Marcus looked around the communications bay, seeing the fear and uncertainty in his crewmates' faces. These were good people, miners and engineers and support staff who had never signed up for galactic warfare. They deserved better than to die simply because they had chosen to show mercy to a wounded enemy. What do we need to do? He asked. HFY turned to face him directly. First, we must prepare the interface chamber. The consciousness bridge requires precise environmental controls and neural monitoring equipment. Dr. Kim will need to oversee the biological aspects while you handle the technical integration. How long will it take? To build the interface? Perhaps 8 hours? To establish the connection and integrate the systems? Unknown. We will be working in theoretical territory. Rodriguez made her decision. Do it, but I want constant monitoring of both of you. And if I see any sign that this is going wrong, we abort immediately. Understood, HFY said. But Captain, once the connection is established, stopping it abruptly could cause severe neural damage to both participants. We must be prepared to see it through to completion. The next 8 hours passed in a blur of frantic activity. Marcus found himself working more closely with HFY than he had thought possible. Their different approaches to engineering, creating unexpected synergies. The aliens' understanding of consciousness technology interfaces was incredibly sophisticated, while Marcus's experience with adaptive systems provided practical insights that HFY lacked. Your brain operates on quantum principles that Karathi neural architecture was not designed to accommodate, HFY explained, as they calibrated the interface equipment. We will need to create a translation layer that can convert human thought patterns into something my technology can interpret. How do you know so much about human neural structure? Marcus asked. I studied everything available about your species when I was preparing for military operations against you. Understanding an enemy's psychology is essential for defeating them efficiently. Marcus paused in his work. And now you're using that knowledge to save us. Now I am using that knowledge to prove that the word enemy was based on a misunderstanding. Vexhi's claws moved delicately over the alien control surfaces. Your neural patterns are chaotic compared to Karathi thought processes, but they exhibit a form of creative disorder that produces solutions our more ordered minds cannot conceive. Is that good or bad for what we're trying to do? It is why this might actually work. Karathi technology is powerful but rigid. Human consciousness might provide the flexibility needed to make it truly adaptive. Dr. Kim entered the makeshift interface chamber, carrying medical monitoring equipment. I've done everything I can to prepare for this, but Marcus, I have to tell you, we're walking into completely unknown territory here. I know. But Sarah, if we don't try this, everyone on the station dies anyway. At least this way, we're fighting back. The neural connection will feel strange at first, Vexhi warned. You will experience thoughts and sensations that are not your own. Do not resist them. Allow the interface to find its natural equilibrium. Marcus nodded, settling into the human-adapted chair they had constructed. The neural interface crown felt surprisingly light as Dr. Kim positioned it on his head, its crystalline components humming with barely contained energy. Karathi consciousness operates on multiple parallel levels, Vexhi continued as he prepared his own interface. You may experience this as seeing or hearing multiple information streams simultaneously. Trust your instincts to sort through them. What will you experience? Human emotional responses, most likely. Karathi minds are trained to suppress emotional reactions during technological work. Your species integrates emotion and logic in ways that we find unsettling. Dr. Kim finished her final checks. Vital signs are stable for both of you. Communication links are active. Remember, I'll be monitoring every neural fluctuation. If I see anything dangerous, I'm pulling you out. Marcus took a deep breath. Ready when you are. Vexhi activated the interface, and Marcus's world exploded into chaos. Suddenly, he was seeing through multiple eyes simultaneously, each one providing a different spectrum of visual information. Kirathi's senses were overwhelming. He could perceive electromagnetic fields, detect molecular compositions by scent, feel the gravitational fluctuations of nearby asteroids. But underneath all of this sensory input, he could sense Vexhi's consciousness, alien but surprisingly familiar in its fundamental structure. The Karathi mind was like a vast organized library, with information sorted into precise categories and accessible through mental commands that felt like martial arts forms. But Marcus could also sense something else, loneliness so profound it took his breath away. Vexhi had been isolated from his own kind for the crime of questioning their beliefs. And that isolation had carved a hollow space in his psyche. Through the connection, Marcus felt Vexhi experiencing human consciousness for the first time. The alien's surprise at the constant emotional undercurrent of human thought, the way logic and intuition and feeling all blended together into decision-making processes. And something else. Wonder. Vexhi was amazed by the creative chaos of human thinking, the way Marcus's mind could leap from one concept to another through associations that followed no logical pattern, yet somehow arrived at useful conclusions. The interface is stabilizing, Dr. Kim reported. Neural activity is synchronizing between both participants. Marcus could feel it happening. His consciousness and Vexhi's finding a common rhythm, like two musicians learning to play together. The alien's technological knowledge was becoming available to him. while his intuitive understanding of adaptive systems flowed in the other direction. "Now we integrate the station systems." Vexhi's voice came through both the speakers and directly into Marcus's mind. Working together through the consciousness bridge, they began linking the mining station's networks to the Kirathi technology salvaged from Vexhi's ship. What had seemed impossible just hours before now felt natural. Marcus's understanding of human engineering guided Vexhi's manipulation of alien systems, while Vexhi's knowledge of Kirathi technology allowed Marcus to see possibilities he never would have conceived alone. The station's sensor array suddenly exploded with new capabilities. They could detect ships at ranges that should have been impossible, analyze their weapon systems in real time, even tap into Kirathi communication networks. The mining laser systems, designed for cutting through asteroids, were enhanced with Kirathi targeting algorithms that could track multiple fast-moving targets simultaneously. Most importantly, they created something that Marcus was already thinking of as a confusion field, a hybrid system that could project false sensor readings to Kirathi ships while simultaneously disrupting their targeting computers. It wouldn't destroy attacking vessels, but it might create enough chaos to level the playing field. "Contact!" Webb's voice broke through their concentration. "Two large vessels approaching at maximum burn. They'll be in weapons range in 40 minutes. Through the sensor network, Marcus and Vexhi could see them clearly. Two Kirathi dreadnoughts and a squadron of fighters, approaching in perfect formation. The ships were beautiful in a terrifying way, their organic curves and predatory grace making them look more like living creatures than machines. "I recognize those vessels." Vexhi's mental voice was grim. "The searing claw and the bone render. Kreshatar is taking no chances." Marcus could feel the aliens' tactical knowledge flowing through the connection. These ships were built for intimidation as much as destruction. Their weapons could turn the mining station into vapor in seconds. Their shields could absorb anything the station's modified mining lasers could dish out. "Time to see if our chaos theory works," Marcus said aloud. Through their shared consciousness, they activated the hybrid defense system. The station's sensors began projecting false readings, multiple phantom targets, fake energy signatures, sensor ghosts that looked like human reinforcements jumping into the system. At the same time, the confusion field began interfering with the approaching ship's targeting systems, making the station appear to be in multiple locations simultaneously. The effect was immediate. The perfect Kirathi formation began to waver as individual ships responded to contradictory sensor data. Fighter squadrons broke apart as pilots tried to target enemies that didn't exist while losing track of targets that did. "It's working," Dr. Kim reported. "They're firing at sensor ghosts." But through Vexhi's knowledge, Marcus could sense that their advantage would be temporary. Kirathi tactical computers would eventually filter out the false data, and once they did, the overwhelming firepower advantage would reassert itself. "We need to do more than confuse them," Marcus said through the connection. "We need to convince them." "Convince them of what?" "That fighting us isn't worth it. That there's a better way." Through the neural link, Marcus could feel Vexhi's surprise at the suggestion. Kirathi military doctrine didn't include concepts like negotiation or demonstration. You fought until you won or died trying. But Marcus had an idea, a typically human solution that no Kirathi tactical computer would have predicted. Instead of trying to destroy the attacking ships, they would prove that destruction wasn't necessary. Using their hybrid system, they began sending targeted communications to individual Kirathi ships, not threats or demands, but information. Video records of Vexhi's rescue, documentation of his treatment aboard the station, proof that humans were capable of showing mercy to their enemies. "What are you doing?" Kreshatar's voice came through the communication system, speaking in accented English. "Surrender immediately, and your deaths will be swift." "We're showing you something your hierarchs don't want you to see," Marcus replied, his voice carrying clearly across space. "We're showing you what Vex High discovered, that this war doesn't have to continue. The traitor Vex High is dead to us, as are the humans who harbor him." "Is he? Vex High, they can hear you. Tell them what you've learned." Through the consciousness bridge, Marcus felt Vex High's moment of profound decision. The alien could stay silent, could allow the attack to proceed and hope their defenses held. Or he could do something that would burn his last bridges with his own kind. Vex High chose to speak. "Kreshitar." His voice came through the ship's communication system, carrying the weight of absolute authority. "I am not dead. I am not a traitor. I am a Kirathi warrior who has discovered that true strength lies not in conquest, but in the choice to show mercy." The silence that followed lasted nearly 30 seconds. When Kreshitar spoke again, his voice was tight with anger. "You have been corrupted by human weakness. You will be cleansed along with them." "Then come," Vex High replied. "Come and see for yourself what human weakness looks like." The dreadnought's searing claw broke formation, accelerating directly toward the mining station. Through their enhanced sensors, Marcus could see its weapon systems charging, preparing for a killing blow that would end the conversation permanently. But as the ship closed distance, their hybrid defense system activated its most sophisticated protocol. Instead of targeting the dreadnought's weapons or engines, it began interfacing directly with the ship's consciousness-linked control systems, the same neural networks that allowed Kirathi pilots to control their vessels through thought alone. What happened next was unprecedented in the history of both species. For just a moment, the human consciousness bridged through Marcus and the Kirathi technological systems shared a direct connection. The crew of the Searing Claw suddenly found themselves experiencing human thoughts and emotions. Marcus's determination, Dr. Kim's compassion, Rodriguez's protective instincts, the collective hope and fear and desperate courage of everyone on the mining station. The effect lasted only seconds before Kirathi firewalls cut the connection, but it was enough. The dreadnought's approach slowed, its weapon charge cycle pausing as its crew struggled to process what they had experienced. "Impossible!" Kreshitar's voice was shaken. "The neural contamination protocols activated. What did you do to us?" "We showed you what we are," Marcus replied. "Not the weak prey your hierarchs told you about, but people who choose to fight for those they care about. People who risk their lives to save enemies. People who believe that understanding is stronger than conquest." Through the consciousness bridge, Marcus felt Vex High adding his own thoughts to the communication. "You felt it, Kreshitar. You felt their minds. Tell me, was that the consciousness of an inferior species?" The silence stretched longer this time. When Kreshitar spoke again, his voice carried a note Marcus had never heard from a Kirathi before. Uncertainty. "The hierarchs will not accept this. They will send more ships, larger fleets. They will not allow such contamination to spread." "Then help us prove them wrong," Vex High said. "Join us in protecting Prometheus. Help us show both our species that cooperation is possible. You ask me to betray everything I was taught to believe. I ask you to consider that everything we were taught might have been wrong." Marcus held his breath, feeling through the neural link how much this moment meant to Vex High. The alien wasn't just trying to save the mining station. He was trying to save the future of both their species. The tactical display showed the Kirathi ships holding position, neither advancing nor retreating. Through their enhanced sensors, Marcus could detect heated communications between the vessels as crews debated what they had experienced. Finally, Kreshitar spoke again. "I will not fire on this station, but I cannot join you either. The choice you offer." His voice carried the weight of genuine anguish. "It is too large for me to make alone." "Then help us make it together," Marcus said. "Come aboard. See for yourself what we've accomplished here. Judge with your own eyes whether humans and Kirathi can work together." And if I decide you are still the enemy, then you'll have learned something worth knowing. And we'll face whatever comes next with the knowledge that we tried to build something better. The communications channel fell silent. Marcus could feel Vex High's tension through their neural link, the alien's entire world view hanging on Kreshitar's decision. Around them, the mining station waited, its hybrid defense systems powered but not threatening, a gesture of trust directed at ships that could destroy them in seconds. When the docking request came from the Searing Claw, it felt like the beginning of something entirely new in the galaxy. The docking of a Karathi dreadnought with a human mining station should have been impossible on multiple levels. The scale difference alone was staggering. The Searing Claw dwarfed the station like a whale beside a minnow. But through their hybrid consciousness bridge, Marcus and Vex High had managed to coordinate the delicate maneuver, guiding Kreshitar's ship to the station's emergency docking collar with precision that amazed both crews. Marcus felt the neural strain of maintaining the connection for so long, but pushed through it. This moment was too important to risk losing concentration. Through Vex High's knowledge, he understood that what they were attempting had no precedent in Karathi history. A military commander choosing to board an enemy vessel for diplomatic purposes was beyond unprecedented. It was heretical. The airlock cycled with a deep, thrumming tone that Marcus felt in his bones. When the inner door opened, Kreshitar emerged flanked by two junior officers, their weapons powered but not raised. The new arrivals were even larger than Vex High, their scales bearing the deep scarlet coloration of veteran warriors. But what struck Marcus most was their body language, tense, uncertain, ready to fight or flee at any moment. Kreshitar's multiple eyes immediately fixed on Vex High, taking in the support harness, the broken wing, the obvious dependence on human medical technology. When the alien spoke, his voice carried undertones that Marcus had learned to recognize as deeply emotional. "Look at you, the deadliest dragon," reduced to accepting charity from prey species. "Look at me," Vex High agreed calmly, "and tell me what you see." Kreshitar circled slowly, his predatory instincts clearly warring with his curiosity. "I see weakness. I see a warrior who has forgotten his purpose. Do you? Or do you see a warrior who discovered that his true purpose was different from what he had been taught?" Marcus remained silent, sensing through their neural link that this conversation had layers of meaning that went back decades. These two aliens had a history that shaped every word between them. "We trained together," Kreshitar said, his voice softer now. "We hunted together. We shared the pride of Karathi supremacy. How could you abandon all of that for this?" He gestured dismissively at the human crew. "Because I learned that our pride was built on lies," Vex High replied. "And because these humans showed me something our people have forgotten, that strength can be measured by what you choose to protect, not just what you can destroy." Dr. Kim stepped forward, her medical scanner in hand. "Commander Kreshitar, I'd like to monitor your physiological responses during this discussion, if you'll permit it. We're learning that neural stress patterns might be universal across species." The massive alien studied her for a long moment. "You would study me like a specimen?" "I would try to understand you as a person." The distinction clearly surprised Kreshitar. Marcus watched through Vex High's eyes as the alien commander processed the concept that humans might see Karathi as individuals rather than just threats. "Very well," Kreshitar said finally. "Study away, human doctor. But understand that I am here to evaluate, not to submit." Captain Rodriguez had been watching the exchange carefully. "Commander, we'd like to show you what we've accomplished here. The integration of human and Karathi technology, the consciousness bridge that made it possible. If you're going to judge us, you should see the full picture. I have already experienced your Neural contamination protocols. That was not technology. That was violation of mental sovereignty. Was it? Marcus asked, stepping forward. Or was it communication at a level deeper than words? Through the bridge. What did you actually feel from us? Kreshtar's claws flexed unconsciously. Chaos, disorder, emotions bleeding into logical processes. And what else? Determination, loyalty to pack members, willingness to sacrifice for others. The alien paused. These are not the traits the hierarchs described when they spoke of human weakness. Vexhai leaned forward in his support chair. That is because the hierarchs have never allowed themselves to truly understand humans. They see only what they wish to see, a species to be conquered rather than one to be respected. And you believe respect is possible between predator and prey? I believe, Marcus interjected, that those categories might be wrong to begin with. Maybe there are no predator and prey species, just different approaches to survival and growth. One of Kreshtar's junior officers spoke for the first time, his voice uncertain. Commander, when we experienced their neural patterns, they were not inferior. Different, yes. Chaotic compared to our order, but not weak. Silence, Thekvar. But sir, if the humans are not what we were told they were, then what does that mean for our mission? What does it mean for the Dominion? The question hung in the air like a challenge. Marcus could feel Vexhai's tension through their neural link. This was the moment when everything could go wrong. A Kirathi commander questioning fundamental assumptions about his civilization while standing on a human station, surrounded by the evidence of impossible cooperation. Perhaps, Dr. Kim said quietly, we could show you the full scope of what we've accomplished, not just the technical integration, but the biological indicators that suggest consciousness bridging might be beneficial for both species. Explain. The neural monitoring we've been doing shows that when human and Kirathi minds connect through the technological interface, both experience enhanced cognitive functioning. Pattern recognition improves by 30%, creative problem solving by even more. It's as if the different mental architectures complement each other. Kreshtar studied the data displays that Dr. Kim activated. You are suggesting that our species are compatible? I'm suggesting that our differences might be strengths rather than weaknesses. That working together, we might be capable of things neither species could achieve alone. Marcus felt a sudden urgency through his connection with Vexhai. The alien was receiving data from his ship's long-range sensors, more Kirathi vessels approaching, and these ones weren't coming to negotiate. Kreshtar, Vexhai said, his voice sharp with warning. Check your tactical displays. The hierarchs have sent additional forces. The Kirathi commander's head snapped toward his personal communication device. After a moment of rapid information exchange, his expression darkened. A full battle group. The Dreadnought's Void Stalker and Iron Fang, plus escort vessels. They are not coming to evaluate the situation. They're coming to eliminate it, Rodriguez said grimly. To eliminate us, Kreshtar corrected. The hierarchs will view my decision to board this station as collaboration with the enemy. I have compromised myself by coming here. Marcus felt something shift in the conversation. Suddenly, they were no longer enemies trying to understand each other. They were allies facing a common threat. How long do we have? He asked. 18 hours, perhaps 20. But Marcus... Kreshtar used his name for the first time, and the alien's tone carried new weight. These ships will not hesitate, will not listen to explanations. They carry purification protocols, orders to destroy any Kirathi forces that have been compromised by human contact. Including your ship and crew? Especially my ship and crew. We are now evidence of contamination that must be eliminated. The mining station's crew exchanged glances. This changed everything. They weren't just protecting themselves anymore. They were protecting Kirathi, who had chosen to question their own government's policies. Then we'd better make sure we're all ready to fight together, Marcus said. What followed was the most intensive 18 hours in the history of both species. Using the consciousness bridge as a foundation, Marcus and Vexhai worked with Kreshtar and his crew to integrate their technologies on a scale that dwarfed their initial experiments. The mining station became the hub of a hybrid network that included both human adaptive systems and Kirathi technological superiority. But more importantly, it became a laboratory for unprecedented cooperation. Human engineers worked alongside Kirathi warriors, sharing knowledge that their governments would have classified as ultimate secrets. "Your shield harmonics are frequency locked," Chief Engineer Torres observed as she studied Kirathi defensive systems. "Efficient, but vulnerable to specific resonance attacks." "True," acknowledged Thekvar, who had become an unofficial liaison between the crews. "But your human shields are chaotic in their frequency distribution. They waste energy but are nearly impossible to predict." "What if we combine both approaches?" Marcos suggested through the consciousness bridge. "Kirathi efficiency with human unpredictability." The result was a defensive system that neither species could have conceived alone, shields that shifted between ordered and chaotic states in patterns that were beautiful to observe and impossible to counter. When the Hierarch's battle group arrived, they would find targets that didn't behave according to any known tactical parameters. But the real breakthrough came when Dr. Kim made a discovery that stunned both crews. The extended consciousness bridging between Marcus and Vexhai wasn't just allowing technological integration, it was causing biological adaptation. Both their brains were developing new neural pathways, creating permanent changes that enhanced their ability to think in both ordered and chaotic patterns. "You're evolving," she told them during a medical check, "not just learning each other's thinking patterns, but actually developing hybrid cognitive capabilities." "Is it dangerous?" Vexhai asked. "I don't think so. If anything, your brain functions are improving across all measured parameters. But Marcus, you're developing what I can only call alien intuition, the ability to process multiple information streams simultaneously. And Vexhai, your pattern recognition is becoming more flexible, more adaptive." Marcus felt the truth of her words. Through the neural link, he could sense layers of reality that human perception alone couldn't access. Electromagnetic fields, gravitational fluctuations, the quantum signatures of approaching ships, information that had always been there, but that human brains weren't equipped to process. "We're becoming something new," he realized. "Both of our species are," Vexhai agreed. "And that may be what the Hierarchs fear most, proof that evolution doesn't have to mean conquest." The approaching battle group was detected 14 hours ahead of schedule, emerging from hyperspace with the precision that marked elite Kirathi forces. 3 massive dreadnoughts accompanied by a full squadron of fighters and support vessels, enough firepower to sterilize an entire planet. "They're not here to capture or interrogate," Kreshtar reported grimly. "Those are extinction protocols. They intend to eliminate every trace of this collaboration." Through their enhanced sensor network, Marcus could see the approaching ships with unprecedented clarity. They were beautiful and terrible, their organic curves making them look like predators evolved in the vacuum of space itself. Each one carried enough weapons to destroy the mining station a dozen times over. But as the consciousness bridge had taught him, sometimes the greatest strength came from accepting vulnerability. "Open a channel to the lead ship," he told Rodriguez. "Marcus, what are you doing?" Dr. Kim asked. "Something completely human. Something no Kirathi tactical computer could predict." When the communication channel opened, Marcus didn't wait for threats or demands. He spoke directly to the crews of all 3 dreadnoughts, his words carried by their hybrid transmission system to every Kirathi on every ship. "I am Marcus Chen, human engineer of the mining station Aurora Station. 18 days ago, I found a dying Kirathi warrior in a crippled ship and chose to save his life. Today, I stand with both human and Karathi crews who have discovered that our species can work together, can create things together that neither could build alone. The response came from the lead dreadnought, a voice carrying the cold authority of absolute conviction. Human, you speak of collaboration with traitors and defectors. You will cease these transmissions and submit to purification immediately. I speak of evolution, Marcus replied. I speak of the possibility that strength comes not from conquest, but from choosing to build instead of destroy. Through our consciousness bridge, Karathi and humans have shared thoughts, shared perspectives, shared the discovery that our differences make us stronger together. Impossible. Such contamination cannot be permitted to spread. Then come and see for yourself. Experience what we've experienced. Judge with your own senses whether what we've built here is contamination or growth. Vex High added his voice to the transmission. I am Vex High, once called the Deadliest Dragon. I came here broken, cast out, dying. These humans could have left me to die. Instead, they showed me mercy, compassion, and the possibility of a future where our species do not have to be enemies. Vex High is dead, came the cold response. The creature that speaks is a corrupted shadow, no longer worthy of the name Karathi. Then I challenge that judgment. Kreshatar's voice joined the transmission. I am Strike Commander Kreshatar of the Searing Claw. I have seen what humans and Karathi can accomplish together. I have experienced their minds directly through neural interface. They are not the inferior prey described in our tactical briefings. They are a species capable of growth, cooperation, and achievements that our rigid thinking cannot match. The silence that followed lasted nearly 2 minutes. When the lead ship responded, Marcus could hear uncertainty creeping into the commander's voice. Strike Commander Kreshatar, you will return to your vessel immediately and prepare for departure. Your contamination will be cleansed upon return to Dominion space. I will not abandon my new allies, Kreshatar replied. Human and Karathi crews have worked together here to create technologies that neither species possessed before. To destroy this collaboration would be to eliminate possibilities that could benefit both our peoples. Then you have chosen to share their fate. The lead dreadnought's weapon systems began charging, energy readings spiking across all sensor bands. Marcus felt Vex High's tension through their neural link, the alien's warrior instincts screaming warnings about the incoming destruction. But instead of panic, Marcus felt a strange calm. Through the consciousness bridge, he could sense the certainty of both his human and Karathi allies. They had chosen their path. Now they would see it through to whatever end awaited. All ships. Activate integrated defense systems, Marcus announced. Show them what unity looks like. What happened next redefined both species' understanding of what was possible. The hybrid shields came online in a cascade of impossible beauty, energy patterns that shifted between order and chaos, defense networks that learned and adapted in real time, sensor jamming that created illusions so perfect they became momentarily real. The Hierarch's battle group opened fire, and space erupted in violence. But their perfectly coordinated attacks struck targets that weren't quite where they appeared to be, were absorbed by shields that changed their fundamental properties moment by moment, were countered by weapons that anticipated and adapted to each new threat. For the first time in Karathi military history, superior technology and overwhelming force were not enough. The hybrid defense network didn't just survive the initial assault. It learned from it, adapted to it, and began responding with countermeasures that no Karathi tactical computer had ever conceived. Impossible, came the transmission from the lead ship. Our weapons cannot achieve target lock. Their defensive systems are evolving in real time. Because they're guided by minds that think differently than yours, Marcus replied. Human intuition and Kirathi precision working together to create something new. Through their enhanced sensors, he could see the effect their resistance was having on the attacking crews. Kirathi warriors trained for quick, decisive victories were being forced to adapt to a battle that changed its rules moment by moment. Some ship crews were beginning to question their orders. Others were asking their commanders why they were attacking fellow Kirathi, who had found allies rather than conquered enemies. The real breakthrough came when one of the escort vessels broke formation. "This is Commander Zethkar of the Burning Talon," came a transmission. "I request permission to board the station and evaluate the situation personally." "Zethkar, you will maintain formation and continue firing," ordered the lead ship. "Respectfully, Commander, my crew has experienced something through our targeting systems. When we attempted to lock onto the human vessels, we momentarily interfaced with their consciousness bridge network. What we felt..." The alien paused. "What we felt was not enemy mind patterns. These humans fight with honor, with loyalty to their allies, with courage in the face of certain death. These are the traits we claim to value in ourselves." Marcus felt a surge of hope through his connection with Vexhai. The consciousness bridge wasn't just defensive technology, it was communication technology, allowing Kirathi who had never experienced human thoughts to understand what humans truly were. More ships began breaking formation. Not all. The lead dreadnought and its most loyal escorts maintained their attack. But enough vessels withdrew from combat to change the tactical situation from hopeless to merely desperate. The battle that followed lasted 6 hours and would be studied by both species for generations to come. It was fought not just with weapons and shields, but with ideas and possibilities. Each side trying to prove to the other that their vision of the future was the one worth fighting for. In the end, it was Vexhai who provided the decisive moment. Using the full capabilities of the consciousness bridge, he opened a direct communication channel to every Kirathi mind in the battle group simultaneously. Not words or images, but pure thought and emotion. The memory of lying broken and dying in his ship, the shock of human mercy, the gradual realization that everything he had believed about his enemies was wrong. The effect was immediate and devastating. Across the battle group, Kirathi warriors experienced for the first time what it felt like to be shown mercy by someone they had been taught to see as inferior prey. They felt human determination, human loyalty, human willingness to risk everything to protect others. Most importantly, they felt human hope, the belief that even in the darkest circumstances, even facing impossible odds, there was always a chance to build something better. One by one, the attacking ships ceased fire. Some crews demanded to board the station and see the collaboration for themselves. Others simply withdrew, their commanders unable to reconcile what they had experienced with their orders to destroy. In the end, only the lead dreadnought maintained its attack, its commander apparently immune to the revelations that had affected his fleet. It died alone, its crew choosing loyalty to the old ways over the possibility of growth and change. The aftermath was chaos. Half the Kirathi battle group had effectively defected, their crews demanding asylum and the chance to experience consciousness bridging for themselves. The other half had withdrawn to await new orders from the hierarchs, their loyalty shaken but not broken. Marcus found himself at the center of something that felt like a revolution. Through the consciousness bridge, he had experienced the moment when an entire paradigm shifted, when a fundamental assumption about the nature of reality was proved wrong. "What happens now?" Dr. Kim asked, as they watched Kirathi and human crews working together to repair battle damage. "Now we prove that this wasn't a fluke," Marcus replied. "We show both our species that cooperation isn't just possible. It's the path to something greater than either could achieve alone." Vexhai, his broken wing finally healing in a support brace designed jointly by human and Karathi engineers, added his own perspective. Now we face the real challenge. Military cooperation is simple compared to the work of building trust, understanding, and genuine partnership between peoples who have been enemies for so long. But it's possible? Rodriguez asked. Marcus looked around at the impossible scene. Humans and Karathi working side by side, sharing knowledge that should have been secrets, creating technologies that neither species had imagined before. Through his enhanced perception, he could see the quantum signatures of their combined activities, the way consciousness bridging was creating new possibilities at the fundamental level of reality. It's not just possible, he said. It's inevitable. Because now that we know what we can accomplish together, how could we ever go back to being enemies? 6 months later, Aurora Station had become something unprecedented in galactic history. A joint research facility where humans and Karathi worked together on projects that pushed the boundaries of both species' understanding. The consciousness bridge technology had evolved far beyond its original military applications, becoming a tool for education, exploration, and the kind of deep communication that made war between bridged individuals psychologically impossible. Marcus stood in the observation deck, watching human and Karathi children, the first generation to grow up with consciousness bridging, playing together in the station's hydroponics bay. Their games involved mental connections that created shared imaginary worlds, collaborative problem-solving that produced solutions neither species could have conceived alone. "They make it look so easy," Vexhai observed, joining Marcus at the viewport. The alien's wing had healed, though it would never again support flight. Instead, he had learned to see his broken wing as a symbol, proof that strength could be found in vulnerability, that salvation could come from accepting help rather than conquering enemies. "Maybe it is easy," Marcus replied. "Maybe we're the ones who made it complicated by assuming we had to be enemies." Through their permanent consciousness bridge, the first stable long-term human-Karathi neural link, Marcus could feel Vexhai's contentment. The alien had found something he had never known he was missing, a sense of belonging that transcended species boundaries. "The hierarchs have agreed to formal negotiations," Vexhai reported. "The success of Aurora Station has convinced them that humans represent an opportunity rather than just a threat." "And Project Prometheus?" "Still developing consciousness transfer technology, but now with Karathi cooperation. The research that the hierarchs once feared as blasphemy has become the foundation for a new understanding of what intelligence and consciousness can be." Marcus nodded, thinking about the broader implications. Aurora Station was just the beginning. Across human space and the Karathi Dominion, other consciousness-bridging projects were beginning, other impossible collaborations taking shape. The galaxy was changing, evolving into something that neither species could have predicted. "Do you ever regret it?" Marcus asked. "Giving up everything you were to become something new?" Through their shared consciousness, Vexhai's answer came not as words but as pure emotion. Gratitude so profound it brought tears to Marcus's eyes. The alien had lost his old life, his status, his place among his own people. But he had gained something infinitely more valuable, the knowledge that growth was possible, that enemies could become allies, that the future didn't have to repeat the mistakes of the past. "Never," Vexhai said aloud. "Because you showed me that salvation doesn't come from conquest or strength or the ability to destroy. It comes from the choice to build something better, even when, especially when, that choice requires trusting someone you have every reason to fear." Marcus watched the children playing below. Their minds linked in ways that created shared dreams and collaborative joy. This was the future they had chosen to fight for. Not human victory over Karathi, not Karathi dominance over humans, but a new kind of civilization built on understanding rather than conquest. The deadliest dragon had indeed found salvation in human hands. But more than that, he had helped create a salvation that extended to both their species, a future where the greatest strength was measured not by what you could destroy, but by what you chose to protect and build together. Outside the viewport, stars wheeled in their ancient patterns, indifferent to the small dramas of biological life. But Marcus knew that among those stars, something truly new was taking shape. A galactic civilization based on cooperation rather than domination, on shared consciousness rather than imposed control, on the revolutionary idea that former enemies could become partners in creating something greater than the sum of their parts. It was, he thought, a pretty good definition of hope.